This is a regular meeting of the Planning Board. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the September 8th meeting. May I have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes of the September 8th meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item is the approval of minutes from the special meeting of September 7th. May I have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes of the September 7th meeting. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. The next item is correspondence. I have 4 items of correspondence that we can receive with one motion. The first is an email communication of Guillaume de Ramel dated September 10th, 2021. Ray Mesolella, Rosebrook Commons Comprehensive Permit Application. The second is an email communication of Mark Trapari dated September 10th, 2021. Ray Mesolella, Rosebrook Commons Comprehensive Permit Application. The third is an email communication from Fran and Rocco DiFilippo, dated September 24th, 2021, Ray Chris Bichot, Aquidneck Avenue Project. And the fourth is a letter from Patrick O'Neill Hayes Jr., dated October 8th, 2021, Ray 809 to 811 and 819 Aquidneck Avenue variance request. May I have a motion to receive these communications?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to receive these 4 communications. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Communications are received. The next item is continuances. We have 5 items being continued this evening. Items 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, and 4E. We will deal with items 4A, 4B, 4C, and 4E in one motion. May I have a motion to continue items 4A, 4B, 4C, and 4E to the November 10th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to continue these 4 items to the November 10th meeting. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Art?
I recommend that the continuance for 4A be the last continuance this board grants, and that the next meeting that this matter be considered for recommendation or declination.
Which item are you talking about?
4A.
4A. I know we have something coming up later in the meeting, Peter. You were going to recommend some wording on this and where to put it in the ordinances, I believe?
We're talking about 4A?
Yes.
Well,
4A,
on the policy or an ordinance
Yes, well,
regarding continuance.
but I believe Art is referring to item 4A.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Which is the Gullison development?
Yes.
All right, which is not the same as what we were talking about as far as 4F or G. But
That's
what
right.
I would say is that there is and I can advise the board, there is a legal issue that has come up with regard to the relief that the zoning official has taken is required for this project related to the minimum lot size for a hotel that the applicant's attorney does not agree with. And so likely, as a result of that, and I don't see Mr. Lynch here today, but my understanding is that the applicant likely will be taking an appeal of the zoning officer's determination on that one issue, because that will have a direct impact on how the application would proceed. And it is possible that that case may go be appealed, that appeal would be to the zoning board, and it's very possible that that would then go to the Superior Court for a determination.
So for now, why don't we just continue these four to the November 10th meeting, and we're going to deal with the policy later on in this
Yes,
meeting.
exactly.
And then we can deal with it at the
So,
next
Paul, if I
meeting.
could,
Yes.
it is my motion. I'm gonna side with Art on this, and I'm gonna amend my motion to pull out item A, and let's deal with the real continuances, C, D, or C.
Well, the same thing applies to
We can go back and revisit that.
4B also.
Well,
That's been on there for a long time as well.
Yes.
So
Yep,
for
agree on
now,
that, too.
So this is
For
an issue,
now-
this is an issue and a probable change in the process of this particular application.
4A.
That has come up on 4A since
4A,
the
yeah.
last meeting.
yeah.
So,
Whereas 4B is just being continued.
so,
and so
So
I
my,
can.
my suggestion is we continue these to the next meeting. Later in the meeting, we'll discuss this policy and get that straightened out, and then we can deal with both of these items.
all I'd say, all due respect to solicitor, attorney, applicant, zoning official, you know, had that issue been addressed earlier, we would have been in a position to at least hear something tonight, or hear that
Well,
they
I
need to be
think
continued.
the reason why, and I'm not here to argue on behalf or against the applicant here, is that I believe, or at least the applicant's position, is that the current zoning official views the need for relief differently than perhaps the prior zoning official did.
I understand that.
So it's.
And
it is an
our only
issue.
point is that if we say to them, come November 10th, that's the last meeting, that's the last continuance I'm willing to entertain. I'm willing to,
Well,
without- without-
I still think we should just continue these to the next meeting, get clarification on the policy, which is coming up later on this agenda. Then we can decide how to deal with those two applications.
And I think maybe that's a good idea, Mr. Chairman, because I think by the next meeting, it's likely that this matter will be on a different track, as which I said would be an appeal to the zoning board from the determination of the zoning officer, and then likely from the zoning board to the Superior Court.
Let me also ask you this,
all
Peter.
right, I understand that.
With regard to the policy on continued items, will we get a clear statement from you this evening on how to deal with that?
Yes.
Good, okay, so let's do that. So the motion is on the table to continue these items to the November 10th meeting. Any further discussion?
Well, to come back to 4A, I mean, I had a discussion with Mr. Regan last month about this issue. And it seems clear to me that we have a zoning officer to determine what is something and what isn't. And he has discovered and publicly said exactly what he thinks is the way it goes. So I don't give a damn about all the lawyers in the world arguing what he thinks it is. He is the guy we depend on for precise information. So-
And that is correct, but the law allows the applicant to appeal that determination from the zoning officer to the zoning board, and if he's not happy with the zoning board's determination of that appeal, to then appeal it to the Superior Court. And this issue would have a big impact on just how the substance of that application is heard before you and before the zoning
So
board of review.
will we have a resolution by the November meeting on the appeal, if they take an appeal? I mean, not a resolution, but a
We will-
determination that they're going to appeal.
I guess what we should have a determination of at your next meeting is exactly what track this is on and where it's going and when it might potentially come back to you.
Now, isn't there also further information coming from the zoning official that the lot dimensions there's a variance needed for the building itself on that piece of property? That he needs whatever you call it, variance for the size of that particular unit?
Coverage.
Yeah, it is the zoning officer's opinion that the applicant needs a dimensional variance from the minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet.
I mean, what,
And height, too, there's
I mean, you've got a height variance, you've got a space variance, you've got at least 4 or 5 waivers.
We shouldn't talk about the substance of the
Let's wait
application
till
here this
it's
evening.
being deliberated.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the table to continue these 4 items to the November 10th meeting. Is there any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
I say nay.
2 opposed?
Yes.
2 opposed, and 5 in favor. Motion passes. Also, item 4D. This is the application from Haran on the Holland Avenue project. We had already decided to deal with this at a special meeting on October 19th, so may I have a motion to continue item 4D to a special meeting on October 19th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to continue item 4D to a special meeting on October 19th. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes, and 4D is continued to October 19th. In addition, I plan to deal with item 5B before I deal with item 5A, and I would like to move items 4F and 4G to after 5A, following 5B. Everybody got that?
Sure, Mr. Chair.
Sort of.
Good, okay. The next item on the agenda then is item 5B.
Seascape.
Application of Seascape Holdings LLC for development plan review for renovation and addition to an existing commercial building. Property located at 985 Aquidneck Avenue, Tax Assessors Plat 113, Lot 208.
Good evening. I'm Greg Coe. I'm the applicant. I'm the principal of Seascape Holdings. And just before you tonight,
Could you make sure you speak into the microphone, please?
sorry. Just here tonight to present my building renovation plan and hopefully get it approved. So there's an existing building on the site, 1 story, sort of kind of looks like a ranch house in very poor condition. And I plan to renovate it, add a 2nd floor, create some shop space for my business, and some office space above, and then just retain the balance of the site for general, equipment storage and other uses. I actually own the property that abuts it and renovated it last year. And as my business expands, I need some additional space.
I've got a general question.
Sure.
It seems to me some years ago, we approved an application for the property behind the All Vets Club. There was supposed to be an office in there that was going to manage oil deliveries.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
Are you connected at all with that?
I'm not.
Okay, but that thing has never come to fruition, so,
So my understanding of that was going to be a merger of I've seen the plans for it.
okay.
It was a merger of the 2 parcels that are back there. I've purchased one of them previously. Now I'm in the process of purchasing the Aquidneck Avenue portion, just to expand my existing business that's there on
Okay,
Trumbull Road.
so you're
I'm completely
good to
separate from
go.
that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions from planning board members? I understand you are requesting no waivers.
No waivers.
No waivers. If there's no more discussion, may I have a motion to approve the request?
Make that motion?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the request for the...
Findings. They want to be clear that the findings that the applicant has
Subject
demonstrated.
to the findings,
There you
yes,
go.
thank you. Subject to the finding, required findings. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is item 5B. I'm sorry, 5A. A public informational meeting application by Aquidneck Commerce Center LLC for master plan approval of a major land development project for a proposed mixed-use development, including 12 new residential units and approximately 15,000 square feet of office space contained in 2 existing buildings pursuant to Article 27A of the Middletown zoning ordinance and including requests for variances from the Middletown zoning ordinances, Section 27A07E1 and 27A07E2. Property is located at 809, 811, and 819 Aquidneck Avenue, Assessors Plat 114, lots 129 and 504.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Patrick Hayes, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. The Aquidneck Commerce Center LLC owns the existing property at 809 Aquidneck Avenue, which is an office complex comprised of 2 buildings. This proposal is to acquire the adjacent 819 Aquidneck Avenue, which has an existing 2-family house, and demolish that house and then build a 12-unit, 2-bedroom apartment complex as shown on the plans that have been filed with you. And I would ask you to note that my letter requesting the variances recites a 12-unit, 2-family, but it's actually a 12-unit, 2-bedroom building that would show up on, that is shown on the plans that we have filed. This, when the 2 lots are merged, this would be a mixed-use project that is permitted under the terms of your, it's Chapter 27A of your zoning ordinance. As part of the process, we do require 3 variances. Those variances are because of the location of the existing curb cut and the need for parking spaces to accommodate the 12 units of residential use. The site best works with a driveway going to the north side of the building, as it might be shown on those plans, and that would create a hardship for having a 20-foot landscape buffer in the, on the north side of the property. So a variance is being requested on the north side of the property, although the boundary line will still be landscaped in accordance, you know, with a good landscaped plan. But we would request to be able to have a road back there instead of the 20-foot landscape buffer, or not a road, but a driveway to the parking spaces. Then the second variance would be to allow for a, because the slope, the property has a 10-foot slope, and this creates a problem in terms of the height limit. So the part of the building that's proposed, because of the slope, will be approximately 4.5 feet above the 35-foot height limit. But for the slope, the 10-degree grade slope on the land, they could build in conformance with the height limit. So because of the slope of the land, we're requesting a variance to allow part of that building to exceed the 35-foot height limit.
Before you proceed, did the TRC act on this height? The same question came up with the auto storage place.
Yeah.
The building was on a slope, and they made a ruling in that. Has the TRC ruled in this case also?
TRC doesn't rule on or advise on height variance
So
requests.
how did they resolve the issue? And
They don't. They've never issued recommendations on zoning relief requests.
okay,
So,
I'm
okay,
sorry.
before you go, can I, Ron, on that same memo, we've identified two variances, but I don't see the height on here.
The letter that you received from Pat Hayes tonight on the desk there has the 3 variances.
I see,
Yeah.
okay.
My
And-
memo, when the memo was drafted, I didn't realize that they were requesting a height variance.
And you did not know that either, at the time, Pat?
I'm sorry, Bill?
You did not know at the time, you discovered it through the review, further review, before you submitted, we missed it, is that what happened? Not a big deal, I don't
This
have,
was developed during the, well, we were aware of some of it, but it developed in the course of the technical review committee
Understood.
hearing. So we requested it as a result of that.
okay, so it's on the record that they're requesting it, that's what's
Yeah,
important.
so there's the, yeah, the three variance requests are for the setback from the abutting residential property, which is supposed to be 100 feet,
Right.
they're at 62 feet.
Okay,
The buffer within that setback is supposed to be landscaped, so that's the second variance, and the third variance is for the building height.
very well, thank you.
Can I just ask another question? So our decision tonight really would be probably contingent upon relief granted to the variances, am I correct?
You have the authority to grant that relief under the terms of the mixed-use zoning ordinance.
Okay. Whoa,
The board makes all the decisions on this case.
we're moving up here. This
Mixed
is
use
a
is-
big time.
It's all planning board.
It's all us.
It's all planning board for mixed use.
That's by state
So listen
legislation.
carefully.
Yeah.
So as Ron said, just to touch upon the last issue is, there is an existing house, which I believe is also used as a business, a landscaping business, on the north side of the property. Due to the setback of that house and the proposed location of the 12-unit building, it is 62 feet of separation, and 100 feet's required. So we're requesting a variance on that, but the 62 feet of separation does provide a large degree of separation and shouldn't impact that property adversely. And so I have Chris Bichot, the principal of Aquidneck Commerce Center, Lynn Small, who's the engineer, and if necessary, Jay Grover, the architect who designed the drawings. And I'd ask them to come up if you have no other questions for me.
If I could just maybe touch
Well,
on
we may have questions, but go ahead.
I just wanted, just as I'm looking down the memo here, just to touch briefly on the waivers.
Yeah.
So I've identified a list of items where there are either questions about whether waivers are necessary, or in some cases, it's obvious that waivers will be necessary. So it's not necessarily true that the applicant is requesting waivers from all of these items, it's just that more information is necessary. So at this point, we're at master plan stage. This application is going to come back before the board at preliminary plan stage once all the engineering is complete. I would suggest that any of the waivers that, or any of the questions about waivers that don't get answered tonight, you can consider at the next stage of review once more information is available. I would just point out that the three that are, I guess, fairly obvious based on the information we have before us tonight would be the waiver from 521.2.c, which is the use of synthetic exterior building materials. That's a waiver that is being requested. The next one down on the list, 521.2.d, flat roof. That's obvious once you look at the elevations. And then further down on the list is 521.3.d.2, required 20-foot landscape buffer along the northerly property line. So that sort of jives with the variance request. There's also that waiver for the
So-
20-foot landscape buffer.
Do we, maybe, Pat, you could identify what you believe waivers you need, because we need to be specific on that tonight, don't we?
No.
No, we don't for a master plan?
I would suggest that you can make decisions on the three waivers that I just noted because they're obvious. I would suggest, and Peter can chime in, I would suggest that you would want to consider the variance relief tonight. That's well
Sure.
documented as to what they're requesting. But the other waivers, you can talk about them tonight if the applicant's prepared to, clarify either they are or they're not requesting a waiver tonight, that's fine. But if not, that can wait.
And just one more thing, thank you, Ron, for saying that. I think we should consider the variances tonight, because typically the variances would need to be determined prior to a preliminary plan approval. Is that correct? in a typical application. I know this is not typical, but
In either
To follow-
case, they could be considered at master plan in this situation or
They could
or
be, but-
preliminary, but.
they
yeah.
have to be done prior to
I would say
preliminary.
by prior to preliminary approval,
So we
you
don't
would
want to
need
tie
to
our
make it.
hands by being here at preliminary, trying to do a variance at the same time.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
I would also add that I think at preliminary, a lot of these little things, housekeeping details will be included on the plan. For example, dumpster locations, et
Right.
cetera.
We just don't have the
So, yeah.
complete package yet, like a light, the lighting plan may not have the
Right.
information that we need.
Yeah.
Landscaping plan, we don't have a landscaping
Oh, I
plan
see.
yet,
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, some of these questions will have to be answered at the next phase.
Yeah, okay.
So if that's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have Lynn Small
Sure.
just give an overview of the project
Sure.
from an engineering perspective.
I have them for my cat.
Hand mic.
You know the little laser thing?
Lasers don't work on those screens.
They don't work
They
on the
don't work on those
screens?
screens, no.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Oh, look at this. I don't know if I trust myself.
Right.
Good evening, Lynn Small, Northeast Engineers, 6 Valley Road. My office is working with Chris Bishu on the design of this plan, and we do have the lot under existing conditions is 2 parcels. They're both developed. The one we're focusing on tonight is the one on the northern side, which is, has a single-family residential home on it right now. That property actually has 2 curb cuts to it. The southern parcel, which will be merged with the northern parcel as part of this project, has an additional curb cut. We are proposing on this development to close one of those curb cuts. It's a traffic-sensitive area, so you do want to limit the number of curb cuts you have on a project. So we're going to retain the northern, so, all right. How do I get a microphone? Can you hear me if I just
She's
talk?
got one for you then, Lynn.
Do you have a hand mic?
She's going to get you one.
I don't know if I need an extra hand.
Yeah, tough, yeah. The old town hall used to have baffles way before your time.
So, the curb cut that is at the northern end of the residential property will be enhancing to create a one-way entrance to the property. We'll be adding parking spaces towards the rear of that lot that connect into the existing parking area for the commercial portion of the project. The access driveway to and from the commercial portion of the project will remain as is to support 2-way traffic. So if you're going to be going to your house on the residential property, you can come in either at the north part of the site or in the commercial part of the site. When you exit the site, you'll have to go through the commercial part of the site. This will help control some of the traffic circulation within the project. The fire department was very happy with this traffic circulation during the review of the TRC. They did ask that we just widen this turn for them. We'll move that handicap spot, just so that they can make that bend if they need to. We have 12 residential units on this lot, and we provide the required parking. If you can read the parking counts that are on sheet 5, you'll see that we actually have a few extra. I'm a little too close to see them, but I think we're required to have about 66 or 68, and we have 75. So if we do have to lose a space because of this shift for the fire department, we'll still have more parking than we absolutely need for this development. As Pat had mentioned, during the TRC, we noticed that there was 10 foot of grade change across the footprint of the building. Originally, we thought it was closer to 8, which is why that waiver wasn't mentioned during the TRC. So this is forcing us into a height variance similar to the car vault that's going to be out on 55 John Clock Road. The building itself, if it were on a flat piece of property, meets the 35-foot height restriction. So the variance is forced to be just because of the way the state code reads, where we have to take that from average existing grade across the footprint. So it is a hardship that would be difficult to overcome with this type of design. The other variance that Pat had mentioned is this structure here. We are, I think, 62 feet away. Now, please keep in mind, this variance is a plus or minus. Because we're at master plan, while we have a survey of our project site, we have not located this structure. It's shown scaled in from an aerial photograph, which is plus or minus a couple feet. But it should be pretty accurate to give you a decent idea that we're going to be below that 100 foot a little bit. The site drains towards Aquidneck Avenue, so during the TRC they did mention that they're going to expect us to have a DOT permit before we come back to you for preliminary review. And this master plan, we've added a drainage feature along Aquidneck Ave that's not designed yet, but it's approximated in size to work for the project so that we can mitigate any peak runoff from the development. There are all utilities in Aquidneck Ave, water, sewer, electric, and gas. We'll be tying into all of them. The Department of Public Works asked us to do an as-built on the sewer that runs north from the sewer manhole. That's in front of this curb cut right here, because it was extended and the person who extended it didn't do a full as-built of it. So we'll have to do that to ensure that it's big enough for us to tie this development into. Those were stipulations that were included in the TRC recommendation that you should have in your file.
Could you define for the layman that sits up here what as-built means?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure, an as-built survey, so I can see close. An as-built survey is basically you go and survey existing conditions after it's built. So it's as it's built, you know, so you have your existing conditions plan, then you have your design plan, and then you have to go do an as-built, so how it was built. So it's basically doing an existing conditions plan after construction.
Okay. And we'll obviously see that when we get the preliminary plan, the details of that.
We'll have to include those invert elevations, pipe sizes, and slopes on the design plans,
Okay,
yes.
thanks.
I don't know if anyone has any other questions for civil. We can, okay.
But do you have any pervious areas that are going to be removed from the existing site?
Well, we have some areas on the existing site that aren't currently impervious, so they will be changed into impervious. Do I have any impervious areas that are being removed?
I mean the opposite, you know.
Okay. We're not touching anything on the southern part of the project, other than blending the parking areas so that they join. So the impervious areas on the currently used residential lot on the north side, we'll be removing the building, we'll be enhancing one curb cut, and we're removing the other one. So we'll get rid of some impervious surfaces on there.
Does the total impervious area increase with the new?
Yeah.
plan?
I mean, we're going from a single family to 12 units with 24 parking spaces. So yeah, we will have some increase, but we'll provide the stormwater with, you know, pre-treatment water quality and detention to mitigate all that. It's worth noting that we don't have any of those provisions today, so that'll result in an improvement.
You know what the percentage change is from?
I don't right now, I'm sorry.
Question?
Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Lynn. So I did not make the site visit, but I did make the site visit for the previous proposal for when we were going to do the renovations.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that we talked about was that, is there a stone wall on the south side? Is that on the property line? I can't.
It's shown on the plan. It's just north of the southern boundary line on the residential property.
No, I'm talking about the one that goes from Aquidneck Avenue perpendicular on the property line?
Yeah, it goes up the hill.
Yeah.
It's right,
So if I recall, that was not in great shape. I'm assuming there's plans to keep that and improve it. I'd just like to keep that in mind. And then the other question that we talked about at the previous, I'm sorry, I'm not talking into the mic. The other question, I just didn't get sheet 5, so it's not a big deal. Oh, wait a minute. No, I didn't see 5. Anyway,
You
I'm
don't
sorry.
have sheet 5?
I
I'm sorry
digress.
about that.
No, it just didn't get into my packet. No big deal. I can follow along. The other question that I recall from that site visit was the change in elevation. There was, and I see you're removing the wall that is there. There was a wall there as well, and then also up further, I see it's being removed, that little foundation shed area. That change in elevation, obviously, just take that into consideration. More importantly, the stone wall, obviously, we want to try to retain
Okay.
that. That's fine.
Other comments? Mike?
I'm looking at, let's see, which one is this? One of the renderings here. And it looks like the new building is very close to that building in the middle, you know. I'm just wondering about, say, is there a certain requirement for, say, the fire people to get in there if they have to approach that side of the south side of that building to?
Yeah, I believe the buildings will meet fire code. We have Jay here who can answer the architectural, he can go through that with you and answer those questions.
There's no, I don't, on these renderings, I don't see that stone wall there at all, you know.
No. But that doesn't mean we're eliminating the stone wall. We probably rebuild that so that the people can have a little bit of space in their backyard, but we'll make sure that I think there's an ordinance in the town that requires that
It's
walls.
identified on the site, the proposed site plan is still being there, so that would be what governs.
Any other comments?
Yeah, okay,
You still going, Mike?
okay, no, I'm all set.
Joe?
Yeah, Lynn, appreciate you describing the traffic flow, the north parcel to the south parcel. When you guys come back with the preliminary plan, could you please show kind of that traffic flow?
You want, yeah, so
You show
Directional
the
arrows?
circulation for the north, but you don't really show anything for the south
okay,
with arrows. Just, I think it would make it easier for us to all understand it.
okay.
Thank you.
This is for master plan approval only, is that correct?
Right. I can put up the renderings if you want to have the architect talk about the design.
Can we comment on designs and issues that might come up during the,
Sure.
I'm wondering if you tried any other designs for the roofs to get rid of the boxy shapes?
I'm Jay Grover with Courts and Design Architecture. So our initial thought was, because these are all on the same site, is to try to make the buildings blend. And since there's such a strong, flat, kind of modern-looking building on the site, we wanted to match that look on the site.
You got to speak up a little
Oh.
more loudly.
Yeah. Did you catch that?
Can you hear him?
Is it working?
It-
Should I hold it up higher? So I was saying, because the site is being combined and it's going to be added to what's existing, we wanted to stay within the look of and the design of the buildings that are on the site, and that commercial building being a very flat, modern, contemporary look, we were looking to match that so that they would work together. And because we do have such a tight, we're limited to 35 feet in height, putting a gable roof on it would surely bring that way over the 35 feet. And to explain a little bit about, because the footprint of the building changes 10 feet, if it was a flat site, the tower part of the building would just be right at under 35 feet. But because of the, I think there's another slide that has the dash line, if you keep going. I think at the end of the, yeah, there it is. So you can see the slope, the 10-foot slope. If that was on a flat site, then the tallest part of the tower would just be at 35 feet. But because of the 10-foot slope, it starts to creep over that.
Your high-vac units will be in a basement? Is that the plan? You won't have anything on the roofs, right?
Yeah, they'll be in the basement. We'll have a full basement.
Okay.
Yep.
So nothing on the roofs except the stuff to keep it from getting water in there, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Just want to double check.
What is the height of the large building on the right, this building?
Yeah, I didn't measure that one, but it's under 35 feet. It's only 2 stories.
So did you consider
20
doing anything with the roof design, you know, even a parapet that might make it look less boxy? These are some suggestions that I guess aren't necessary for master approval. But when you come in the next time, it would be nice to see that you've at least tried some different designs than just boxy designs. Even with the new building with the residential units in it, I don't have an issue with the slope like some people do, but the boxiness, I think, could be softened some with some creative work. Give that some thought if you don't mind.
Sure.
Also, I assume when landscape plan and maintenance, landscape maintenance will come in at a later time? Is that correct? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
And also, with buildings such as this, especially since you're requesting flat roofs, the question always comes up on rooftop equipments. Are there any rooftop equipments on these? None at all? New building or old buildings?
Chris Bisho, the developer and owner
Hi,
of
Chris.
Quinnipiac, I'll help you out. There'll be no, the current office building is 28 feet high. It does have rooftop equipment, which brings it to approximately 35 feet high.
Has to be screened.
It's not. It's not a new building, it's an old building.
But you're renovating it, and it's part of
No,
the
we're
whole
not-
project.
We're not renovating that building. We're only building the new.
Well, then I would request that you consider screening it,
Oh, okay.
okay?
But there's no equipment on the new building
It
at
makes
all.
a big difference. It
Yeah.
really makes a big difference. So
Yeah.
I would request that you
Sure. We'll
screen
take a look at
that equipment.
Yeah. Again, I just bought the building 5 months ago, so that's fine. And so all the HVAC equipment will be in the basement, Arthur, as you asked. And the concept is to create this campus of mixed use where you have office and residential working together. As most know, people who go to offices work during the day. Most people in residential are out of their apartments during the day. So it's a really good opportunity, again, to use mixed use in the town. There's no retail, there's no restaurant, there's no, really a lot of after-hours activity on the commercial part of the business, and vice versa on the residential, which will be mostly home. About the design itself, so what we're going for is it's a modern coastal design, which is extremely becoming popular throughout the Northeast. And we've actually softened up the current building, which was concrete, and we've added a soft texture to it. If you drive by, you can see it's going under renovation now. And the Seconded I building is going under the same renovation. And our goal here is to really make it all work together. I know some people may like flat roofs, not like flat roofs, is a personal preference. This is a design style becoming very prevalent throughout the Northeast. And, it's a little fresher, a little bit more modern. At the same time, we used a board and bat. We used a lot of composite wood to give it that soft coastal kind of look. So, we'll look at some other designs. We just felt that when we looked through all our options, this kind of made the whole campus kind of come together as one cohesive kind of community.
Another question I have is on the east side of the property,
Yeah.
the parking area comes very close to the boundary line.
Yes.
Are you planning to put any screening there?
Yeah. So right now, on the east side of the property, on the 809 side, we have about 25-foot giant abrevieties there. And Fran and D. Filippo's a good friend of mine. So we're going to continue that buffer all the way across the back.
Joe?
Chris, I'm going to just state that, Cortison does a great job with the design and looking at these renderings. I think for the next step, having maybe some more mature trees, especially in the illustrations around that new building, that new residential building, would help soften it quite a bit. It looks kind of stark, like,
So we have a landscape contract.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and present that during preliminary and final. So we want to get through master first before I have to go spend another 30, 50 grand to get the design done. So if we get master first, then, making the investment on the full package design will
Understood.
make a lot of sense.
The colors, in our comprehensive plan, we go for sort of like a coastal New England look, and somehow I don't see those colors looking coastal New England, I'm thinking of sort of like, gray or something like that, or
It's
white.
more of a modern kind of look.
Yeah, yeah.
So we turned the office building black with the toned, and then we added, actually, the white is now gone, and now it has a brownish earth tone to it. If you go by, you can kind of see the tone that's set. I'm getting rave reviews, so I think a majority of the people in town seem to like it. They keep stopping by asking, where can I get the composite wood?
Okay.
It's kind of tough, right? It's all personal preference, and, I guess it's hard to say.
Any other general comments or questions?
Yeah, I do.
Bill?
Paul, thank you. Well, it's more procedural, but it does kind of go to the renderings that we're having, because we're being asked here to potentially look at some zoning issues, right? The zoning issue, one that stands out to me, I don't know what you're doing for signage, but the 819 rendering is probably not going to meet your sign requirement. I don't know if you're asking for a variance there, if you will, but just keep that in mind going forward. I'm assuming it's not, it's just for the rendering.
Yeah.
But because we're not a zoning board, and generally, we're being asked to do zoning standards, and that's my procedural question, Peter and Ron. And well, this kind of goes to the request for the variance. No, it does. Have the abutters been notified for this?
Well, we were talking on the side here and realized that because we didn't know that they were seeking a height variance when the notices went out, there was no indication in the public notice or in the advertising or on the agenda of that variance request. So I think Peter's advising the board to obviously continue with the discussion tonight, but that we would have to renotice and re-advertise prior to you voting on the master plan so that proper notice is given,
Right.
all the relief that's being requested.
So, yeah, that's kind of what I thought, and that's fine. Although,
problem.
for the record, I support the variances at this point, but I think procedurally, the other question I had was relative to, obviously, notifying abutters, but we're still bound by the standards for a variance, to meet, we still need to review those in our findings, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so which then brings in the requirement for a public hearing, which we have not had, and we haven't advertised. Because we never opened up even the public informational meeting, not that we had to, but we didn't even open up a public hearing for this. Not that I don't want to hear from neighbors if they're here, but I think we need to do it procedurally.
Well, I think the public informational meeting, as it was advertised in notice, would satisfy the notice requirement and allow you to proceed with granting relief, because you're operating under the mixed-use ordinance, which specifies that you go through basically the subdivision process, master plan preliminary,
Sure.
final, and that you're considering all the relief that's necessary
Okay.
under that process.
Yeah, I understand, Ron. I think my more question is generally the plan of, what are we at, not the master plan,
Preliminary?
no, the fact that we are having a public informational meeting, it acts, it's like a public hearing. We just don't call it a public hearing,
Right.
but it acts, and it probably satisfies the statute.
We will we'll make sure that the new notice that goes out is very specific, that the board, as to what the board would be reviewing and what the board would be acting on.
And the only reason I brought it up, it may not have, doesn't have to do with the height, it has to do more with the distance to the residential property. I want to make sure that that person's notified, that that person has a chance to speak. He's here, I know he's here, I know he's in the back. So that's why I said I don't actually mind hearing from them tonight,
No, we will.
but yeah, you know.
And just to address your signage question, we're just gonna, we have a sign currently on the office building, that's gonna be the only sign on the whole property. So we won't add an additional
Yeah,
sign.
no, I knew that, I just wanted to put it out there because, again, we're not a zoning board generally.
Paul?
BJ?
Yes. Yes, my comment is not necessarily about an immediate abutter, but from someone who has business across the street, they were absolutely thrilled to hear about the project, and I described some of it. I do think that this looks very stark, but I like Joe's comment about the landscaping, and of course, I'm the one who loves trees and everything else, so landscaping is very important to every project that I view anyway. But I was delighted to hear very positive thoughts coming from your neighbors, potential neighbors across the street.
Thank you very much. And as you, one other note is, we're working right now at Rhode Island DOT. I don't know if you're aware or not aware, but DOT is now designing, actually just getting the easements for the Aquidneck Ave project, right? So on our side, on the eastern side, we have new drainage going in all up and down Aquidneck Ave, and then we have sidewalks on the other side of the road going in. So we were contacted by DOT 2 weeks ago, Constance, and I guess we're meeting with them in 2 weeks. Our drainage is somehow going to be related now to their drainage, which I guess we'll get figured out with RIDOT.
Any other comments?
Well, we're going through a new process in terms of our disciplines here, and I think we're correctly taking care of variance issues up front in master plan. Because if you don't get the variances up front, what's the point?
Yeah.
So this again is a new learning curve for us a little bit too.
So is your recommendation that we continue this to the next meeting in order to get clarification?
The statute provides that you have to either conditionally approve or deny any variance requests before voting on master plan, and since all the variances weren't advertised, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I think, you know, it's a short agenda tonight, so it's an opportunity to hear from the applicant and anyone else.
Yeah.
But I think this will need to be re-noticed and re-advertised to the abutters.
Could we
Understood.
combine the two meetings so that the master plan and the preliminary are held at the same time?
You would have to get to a preliminary level of engineering.
Yeah, I think we'll just be going for master on, because we won't have our RIDOT, our PEP.
Yeah.
So we'll be just going for master plan next time around.
All right, so it appears this item will be continued to the next meeting, but is there anyone here from the public who would like to comment?
Any other questions for me before I step away?
Any other
Good right now, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Members of the public?
My name is Angelo Patello.
Angela, you can speak up.
I abut the property. My name is Angelo Patello.
Could you give us your name and address, please?
My name is Angelo Patello, 833 Aquidneck Ave. I'm kind of curious. One was the 35 feet. I live next door. I know someone had said there's a landscape company next door.
Could you use the hand mic, please, and hold it up close to you? Yeah.
Can you hear me? I don't think it's on.
There you go.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
I have a cold, so.
That's
The issue I have is one, drainage. I know nothing to do with these guys that are doing this now, but we have bad drainage. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
We have very bad, poor drainage. My property, pretty much, I'll get water in my basement if we get a heavy rain. So I'm kind of curious of how they're going to deal with that. It looks like on the back side of this property, the property that, you know, we're talking about here, kind of wondering how close it is to my property line, because if they're going to block, you know, the back end, the water's gonna scoot around their asphalt onto my property, which everything runs downhill. It will make my issues even greater than what they are now. And then the buffer, you said 20 feet? So 20 feet, is that including the driveway that's going in front of the building? Is that part of the buffer? Or is it, because they showed a structure up there, my house, I think. And I think that's like 25 feet from the corner that they showed to the fence line.
Sheet 5, is that it on the plan? Oh, that's yours.
So,
This is yours.
No.
so from this point here to here is around 25 feet or so.
Okay, I think that's yours.
So how wide is this building from this
Yeah,
point to
that's
here?
Can you indicate to us on that chart where your property is exactly?
Well, that's, I'm guessing, that this is the chain link fence, so
Okay.
that there. So I'm just curious, on the buffer part, we do use our property, we have a pool in the backyard. You know, my landscape stuff is in a trailer, so I haul everything out when I leave in the morning. I don't hold materials, any of that stuff, it's,
You know, I suggest that you talk with the applicant. They won't be presenting their information about drainage until they get to the preliminary plan stage. So it's a good time to talk with them, so they can do
no,
anything.
that's fine, I've not been approached, I didn't know that this is what was going on until
Yeah,
today.
but I encourage you to talk with them, and
Okay.
I'm sure they will work with you and,
All right,
you know, address concerns, answer your questions, and whatever.
okay.
Yeah, Angela, not just the applicant, but the staff too. Ron and Rita, great. You'll, right here, Ron and Rita.
Planning
Yeah,
staff.
planning staff. You know, I'm sure you can make an appointment with them if you have any.
Well, I just, like I said, my concern is, you know, we use the house, it's not an office, it's not,
course.
you know, it's where I store my equipment, but, and then the other question is, you know, the units, like, is it rental for elderly? What's the game plan as far as general? You know, so it's kind of like, not really knowing what's going on, so I'm kind of curious too.
You're going to have some time now, I think, based on us going to have to continue this. So I think sitting down with them and the staff, either or both,
Yeah.
would be beneficial to everybody.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public who wishes to speak? Okay, may I have a motion to continue this item to the November 10th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The item is continued. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
The next item on the agenda is item 4F. Town Council requests that the Planning Board research adopting an ordinance requiring esplanade-style sidewalks. Consider recommending an ordinance language to the Town Council. Peter, this was left in your hands, I believe.
Yes, it was, Mr. Chairman. So after speaking with the town administrator, and I think we mentioned this at the last meeting, as to who would, there be some language in the ordinance that, you know, these sidewalks would be required where there was sufficient land in which to put the grass strips. And if there was a question as to whether there was enough land or not and how wide the strip would be, I spoke with the town administrator. He would like the planning board to make that determination. So that will be in the ordinance. And then taking a look at this would probably be in Title 9 of the code, which deals with sidewalks and public roads and those sorts of things, which also simplifies the process of getting it enacted as opposed to putting this in the zoning code. So I'll have a final draft of a proposed ordinance for you to review at the next meeting, and
Very
then
good.
you can pass that along to the council.
Okay, so we can expect a draft at the next meeting.
Okay.
Any other comments on this?
No, that's good.
PJ?
Yes, I have some concerns about the grass and the position of it, because, of course, it's maintenance. And the question is, who's going to maintain the mowing and the trimming and whatever? And I understand that it should perhaps be the abutter who should do this, but I wonder if that's going to be practical or not.
You know, I think, first of all, the council has requested this and wants this enacted, so I think ideally it would be the abutters, and you'll see, and I've noticed, I've started running again the last several months, and so I actually now appreciate where these grass strips are, so I can run on the grass as opposed to on the road.
Right.
But you'll see, there's a lot of areas where the folks who have it in front of their house, they'll mow it and take care of it as their lawn. Other areas where that doesn't happen, ultimately it'd be the town, the DPW that will do it as part of their regular mowing.
Will there be anything in the proposed ordinance draft that addresses maintenance?
Was not planning on putting that in there.
Somehow I feel that if it's not there, you know, nobody's going to take responsibility.
Well, I think the town, there's a lot of these in Newport, and it doesn't seem to be an issue. I think it's mainly the homeowners that.
Isn't that tied to
Homeowners are
the,
gonna do it, and
Yes.
then, but it's really the responsibility of the town ultimately if nobody does it.
Yeah.
but the,
I mean, if you think about it, if you're taking care of your lawn and you've got a nice lawn, you don't want to have 2 feet of grass.
Right.
You know,
Right.
literally one sidewalk away between that and the street. You're going to take one more pass with your mower.
at the same time, don't we have an ordinance that requires homeowners to shovel the sidewalks in front of their house?
We did.
Yeah.
See, those are the big decisions that the council's going to have to make, right? I mean, we're going to see it, but those are the issues that are
Well, I'll
gonna-
bring it to you, and then if. you
Of
can-
course.
So we can, we
You can
can,
amend it as you see fit.
we
pass it
can,
along.
in the cover memo to the council, we can suggest.
Well, the reality is,
vague-
the snowplows put it on the sidewalk and it becomes concrete, and it's impossible to move. So throw that out for everybody.
Yeah.
Any other comments on this? Okay, so we can expect the draft at the next meeting, Peter?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next item is 4G, discuss policy for removing items that are repeatedly continued from the planning board agenda. You were going to come up with some wording and
Yes,
a
so
recommendation
we
as
did come
to...
up with some wording which provided to the board at the last meeting, and then the question was, where does this go? Also, we wanted to make sure that the policy that the planning board had was consistent with the policy that the zoning board had, because there's same applications on both agendas. And in looking at where to put this, the town code, as well as state law, gives the planning board the ability to adopt procedural rules for how applications get heard. There are a number of communities in which planning boards have done that. Ours has not. Likewise, the state law actually provides that the zoning board shall adopt procedural rules, and ours hasn't. So it seems to me that that would be the ideal spot for this.
Okay,
And it also appears to me that just having a set of rules with only one rule doesn't make an awful lot of sense. So what we will be drafting is a set of basic procedural rules in terms of meeting nights, submission dates, those kind of things, in which this rule would be included as part of that package.
that's great.
So the plan would be to provide a draft of those to you for the next meeting as well.
I think that's great. That's terrific. I like that very much. So for the next meeting,
And I'll coordinate with Ron, because I know Ron he's got a list of policies and procedures that we generally follow, but aren't put together in one package, so
okay.
we'll make sure we're not changing things.
So you expect to have this for the next meeting?
I do.
Great, thank you. That's very good. Any other comments? Great, very good. The next item is item 5C. Appointment of a planning board member to serve on the Middletown Affordable Housing Committee. And I would like to appoint Art Weber to be our representative on that committee.
Second.
Do we need a motion? Okay, may I have a motion to appoint Art Weber as the planning board representative to the Middletown Affordable Housing Committee?
So moved.
Well, you made the motion, you can make a
Well,
motion.
I suggested to appointing him, but,
I seconded it.
okay, all right. Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Art, are you willing to accept?
Oh, we gotta ask him, right? We gotta- Go for it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion
We
passes.
voluntold you.
Congratulations, Art.
The great state of
Another meeting.
We're going to check the electoral college votes on this.
The next item is item 5D, consideration of revised recommendation to the town council on proposed amendments to the mixed-use development ordinance, Middletown zoning ordinance, Article 27A. Ron, you want to just give a little background here?
Sure, so this request from the planning board to the town council to amend our mixed-use ordinance, this will be the second time it's been referred back. The prior time was concerns related to the recommendation to eliminate the hours of operation, the time limits for hours of operation. The council, when it received that request, didn't like it, and then the board, as you know, sent back a revised request where you suggested just changing the hours of operation for restaurants and limited business districts to allow them to stay open till 10 p.m. And I believe you left everything else the same as far as your recommendations. So when the council received that latest request, a concern was raised about the uses that would be permitted under the proposed revisions. You'll recall that the board suggested eliminating from the prohibited uses list government, educational, and institutional uses, that entire heading, supermarkets, and billiard and pool parlors. The concern was raised that perhaps some of these uses actually aren't appropriate in mixed-use development and should continue to be prohibited. That's the discussion that happened at the town council meeting. And at that point, the council agreed and voted to send it back to the planning board to focus now on the issue of the uses. So in my memo to you, I suggest that you probably would be well served, and if you're going to send something back to the town council, to take a good look at all of the uses and how they're addressed now in the ordinance and what your recommendation is. If the recommendation ends up being the same, that's fine, but I think it would be a good opportunity to take a close look at what's in the ordinance now and what you're suggesting should be allowed, which might now be prohibited. It's up to the board as to how you wish to proceed. I think that was the primary issue that was raised by the town council.
Ron, if I remember correctly, I heard that discussion, and it wasn't that they were opposed to all of these. It was just that they felt that they were opposed to some and that we should reconsider what we think belongs there.
And I think it was the specific items that Ron had
Yes.
just mentioned, pool halls,
Yeah.
supermarkets, which just by definition, a supermarket is a grocery store of 5,000 square feet or more.
Yeah.
So I think they just thought in terms of the size, and I think the other one was the
Why are we playing
institutional
ping pong
use.
with this? I mean, it's ping pong. If they don't like them, then it's their ordinance. I mean, it just seems to me to be wasteful.
You did want feedback and communication, so.
Well, I've got to say, quite frankly, they could fix some of this themselves, number one. Number two, this ordinance is growing in importance every day.
Take it out and move on.
You've got Chris's project, which is a mixed use. We have an important consideration for a huge project which we're going to hear tomorrow night, that is also keyed off mixed use. So we're seeing this ordinance coming alive, and to keep screwing with it with these minor idiotic adjustments, to me, is, I don't get it. I mean, are we the only people that think this is important or not?
Yeah, it's wasting time, it's just delaying at the end, delaying it.
We just get a little frustrated, and it's also could be key to the development of the corridor if we ever get around to that. So-
Be that as it may, we have to deal with this. They sent it back to us, and we have to deal with it. My suggestion is the following. Let me see if I understand this correctly. With the third bullet on this memo, that can be addressed by referencing the 35 feet in LB and the 40 feet in GB. Is that correct, Ron?
That's already addressed in the draft that you sent forward, that the ordinance would reference section 603. So that didn't raise any concerns that I heard.
So what is the problem? What is it they asking us to do then on that?
To look at the uses.
Yeah, and it was really, once again, those three uses which had previously been prohibited and then were allowed, which was pool halls,
Yeah, I don't have,
institutional uses, and then supermarkets, which once again is a...
yeah, I don't have a problem with eliminating the pool halls. I don't understand why a small market wouldn't be a good thing to have in a mixed-use
So the only
development.
the reference was to supermarkets, and once again, a supermarket is 5,000 square feet or above. So
So if we modified that to be a small market,
a grocery,
less than
you got a
5,000?
grocery store of less than
Grocery
5,000.
store?
Yeah.
So one of the things that came up yesterday at our use table meeting was proposing to eliminate the supermarket designation. But that's not something that we need to get into for the mixed use.
No.
I mean, let's just
Let's just do
do it.
5,000 square feet or less,
I mean,
Or less than, yeah.
less than
Well,
5,000
just,
square
once
feet.
again, if it's, that, the definition is of a supermarket, so if that, prohibiting supermarkets would not prohibit a grocery store of 3,000 or 4,000.
So if we just eliminate supermarket, grocery stores are still allowed?
Yes.
Okay, let's eliminate the supermarkets then.
How about a little market?
Well, he
We
just
talked
said a
about it.
grocery store is still allowed.
Okay, all right. Supermarket.
What about the time limits? Do we have to do anything with those?
You've got the,
What is in the ordinance now?
you've got the ordinance in front of you. Currently, the limit is in limited business, 6 to 8 p.m. for all businesses, and 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. in general business. Your request is to consider allowing restaurants in limited business to be open until 10 p.m. instead of the 8 p.m.
So,
And that didn't, and they didn't seem to have an issue with that,
so what was the problem with times then?
Nothing.
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 Just the uses.
So we
Again,
can just leave it the way it
the
is?
only concern that was raised were the uses that the board wished to allow. So you've got, again, the supermarkets, pool, and billiards. The bigger category, government, educational, institutional uses, the comment was there are several uses under that category, and does the board wish to allow for all those uses? And I don't have the list in front of me, but that's something the board should consider.
Are there federal government uses that,
well, the only reason that came up, and I remember why that came up, is because the proposal over on West Main Road was to consider some municipal fire station potentially, which is something that that's where I think that came from. So that's why, so yeah, so there are other uses, but, you know, governmental, educational, I mean, at this point,
What I would suggest with regard to, for example, if it's a governmental use, if the town decides down the road that they want to put a school, or they want to put a fire station, or
can amend
a
it.
satellite police station, they have the ability to change the
Right.
ordinance at that point in
That's fine.
time to make that happen, so I wouldn't.
could it be
fall on your
handled by a
sword
special
on-
permit?
At this point, yep.
Could it be handled by a special permit?
Could be, they could,
Case by case
just in
basis?
terms of if it's the board's intent to try to get this, the bulk of this done, I would,
Just
I
eliminate it?
would- I would take the feedback for what it is.
Just eliminate it?
And eliminate those.
can I move that
for
we
the
go with
time
this
being.
draft?
And I think frankly, at some point down the road, and Joe probably knows this as well, you know, if a major proposal comes in for that West Main corridor, you know, has specific proposed uses, there's probably going to be a revamp of this anyway to fit what might be coming in.
Of course.
So
I think,
if I-
you know, this is going to be written in clay, not in stone, so there'll be opportunities to change it down the road.
That's fine.
So to be clear, the only change that we are proposing to send back to the town council is the elimination of the pool parlors, the supermarkets, and the federal offices. Is that correct?
And then the hours of,
Well, the hours were already
The hours were
changed in
already
what you
set.
sent back, so that
okay,
was-
okay, right.
And you said the height issue was not an issue?
We're going back to 603, sending them back to.
So it's just the elimination of those three uses, is that correct?
Fine,
What about supermarkets? What do you want to do with that?
Eliminate them.
because it doesn't prohibit.
It still allows
store.
grocery stores.
Right.
So what this is going to result is, what this will result in, your request is then just to allow restaurants and limited business to be open to 10 PM and to have the height limit reference section 603. That's the only revisions that you'll be sending forward to the town council.
And the elimination of those three uses.
Well, that they're already prohibited in the ordinance, so what you're saying is
They're already prohibited.
yes.
So that change would not go.
Oh, we were proposing to include them, is that what
Yes.
happened? Okay, I get it.
So
Okay.
what you're sending forward to the council is very minor in terms of revisions to the ordinance.
In the interest of getting this thing done, yes. I mean,
Okay, may I have a motion
without much
to,
opposition.
I agree.
may I have a motion to
I agree.
send forward the revision as we've discussed?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
One quick thing.
Yeah.
We invented this ordinance as another tool for developers coming into Middletown. And guess what? We have at least 3 cases where this is useful for development. So the sooner we can get this little nibble back up, the better off we are. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Agreed, agreed.
Absolutely.
Well, I think the town council is
Yeah.
understanding of that also, so I think they'll move on this. Ron, are you clear on what we're doing?
I think
Good.
so.
Good.
Crystal clear.
Any further discussion on this? Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda.
Do we have to vote on it? Was
We
there a
have to
motion?
vote on it.
Oh, we took a motion and I didn't vote on it.
It's okay.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item is item 5E, consideration of suggestions for projects to submit to the town council in response to the solicitation for ideas for use of American Recovery Plan Act funding. And as I've mentioned to some of you, Ron and I have discussed this, and I would like to suggest that the planning board propose a project to the town council for extending public water to the east side of town, including hydrants for safety and anything else related to the water system. And I'm open for discussion.
Well, everybody knows that I have been a proponent of water for 2 reasons. One is for fire safety, and secondly, there's no guarantee that anybody has a well over there is going to have a well forever. And if your well goes dry, you're really in trouble. And I think if we can get a water line over there at least and have fire main, water hydrants, that's a good thing. Whatever comes later, you can't force people to tie in, maybe nobody ever will tie in, but at least we'll have hydrants for our fire department to use on the safety issue, and I think that's really a big deal.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to remind the members of the board that when we were reviewing the capital improvement plan, there was an item in there, even though it was not funded, it was in the plan for consideration in the future to install cisterns for fire protection on the east side of town, and they gave an estimated price of $750,000. And not only would they have to be installed, but they'd have to be maintained afterwards. So getting public water to the east side is a plus for a lot of reasons.
Do we have any kind of a guesstimate on what that expense is? Does $4.7 million even nibble at it? I mean, I'm sure the council has other ideas and people have other ideas. I don't. I support this, but I think, I'm not sure where 4.7 gets us.
It's not going to, certainly not going to cover the whole project. It'll start.
Start the ball rolling. Yeah, I support that.
It's worth
Paul.
a
Sure.
strong request.
It's a valid request for
Yeah.
that type of money, agreed. It starts the ball rolling, it's kind of our duty to do that. I don't disagree.
Are there any other ideas that people have?
Is there anything we could do for housing for
Don't
elderly people
Don't
around?
ask for.
No.
That wasn't
How with
thinking
the old
of that.
people?
So I do, I am very familiar with this plan because I work with jurisdictions all over New England and encouraging them to use this money. Believe it or not, and I brought it up yesterday at the use table meeting, this money can be used for an awful lot of different things, pretty broad. Even bonus money for town employees who, yes, I'm serious on that. That's a fact. Jurisdictions can award bonus money up to $25,000 per employee for work over and above the call of duty during COVID and beyond. And I would suggest that they should spend some money on that to some of our staff and start with our planning staff. That probably won't go over real well, but it's still how I feel. I think you all do a great job, and I think you deserve to be compensated further for it. And you, Pete, too. But you're not staff, you're contract, so. Anyway,
It's on the record.
it's crazy money, though. It's a lot of money that, we can do some good with, so. Yes.
Well, the discussion here is, should the planning board make a recommendation to the town council for a project? And my suggestion is public water to the east side. I'm certainly open to other suggestions. Joe, any comments?
Well, I'm just looking at the chart on the back of the notification here. It says that we have planning board receives a list of projects, or town council receives a list of projects from the planning board. We have until February 7th, right, to...
So what that's, I can talk to that. That's referencing a later part of the process where the council's going to receive all the project recommendations and suggestions, and the deadline for that is the middle of December.
Okay.
Following that, the council is going to develop a list of projects that they're considering pursuing and forward that to the planning board for review for consistency with the town's comprehensive plan. So that's what that's talking to.
All right,
So that's a
all right.
separate thing.
Okay, all right.
If we get to consider the ultimate list, are we biasing ourselves by putting our own suggestion forward?
You're being asked to provide ideas, so I don't think that's a problem.
Yes, BJ.
Yes, this is not really a suggestion for this council, but when I was on the planning board in Coventry, we were awarded a stipend of, mind you, $30 a month. And that was really for our gas, for all the site walks that we had to do and drive around the town of Coventry. And our chairman received $60 a month, and this was all from the town council. I was very surprised when I discovered that we were getting this, because I was not expecting it. But this was just something that the town of Coventry, the town council there wanted to do for the people who were spending a lot of time and effort for the town.
Does our zoning board get compensated?
Yep, I may be,
I think
I
they
don't, maybe I had a dream, but I was told that our governor has signed off on something related to people's age and serving on boards and committees in their respective towns, and I don't know what the age limit is. It's certainly more than 29, but the towns would come up with some kind of a program to, in some kind of monetary way, support their boards and committees with old people, whether it would be by tax relief or, I don't know, company car or something like that, you know.
401K.
Ron, another thought that kind of popped in my head, and I support this, so I will go there, but as we talk about, it just kind of came to my mind when you talked about a valid project, bringing water to the east side. In addition to the ARA money, ARP money, is the brick funding. There's a brick funding program, so you might look into that. Those projects like this might qualify under the brick grant program through FEMA. So I'm kind of a lot of money out there with COVID, but brick is a little bit different. But they've started to allocate a lot more money towards infrastructure and resiliency and sustainability. So we may be able to, so you might pull that up, Rita. I can send you some links, but I'm sure you can Google it. But it's another opportunity. But yeah, I support this, Paul. I think we should move on it.
BJ?
Yes, what I'm going to just bring up is something that has been brought up many times again, and that is opening up the Burma Road to make a connection that would relieve the congestion of traffic on West Main Road. And it could possibly be from Portsmouth through Middletown into Newport. If that could ever happen, I think that it might be very, very helpful, because the traffic is horrible. I know on East Main Road it's awful, but on West Main Road it's terrible also. So the Burma Road, I don't know whether or not that's something that could be pursued.
Well,
That's not, I mean, it is a funding issue, but the primary issue there is the Navy's not willing to allow Burma Road to go through to Coddington.
But they might. You never know.
No,
Things are
they've
changing.
said no.
I mean, things are really changing now.
I can tell you exactly the reason it's not being approved. Homeland Security has said the distance from the Army Reserve Center to the road is too close. There's not enough room there. It's a security problem. That's the hang-up for getting throughput to the other end. So that's where that stands. Unless we get significant help from our big guys, the senators, we're never going to get it through.
Yes, perhaps.
So if we're going to send some suggestions to the town council, we have extending public water to the east side. Are there others we should include?
Is there any elderly housing issues or that we can
Well,
support?
we have an affordable housing committee that's active now.
Yeah.
We just had an over 65 or over 50, over at Thelma Lane, that was for senior citizens. I don't know how much of an issue that is anymore.
But what about some,
Affordable housing has risen to the top now.
what about school issues? I was thinking, my wife's on the school committee, of course.
School issues?
Yeah, so we don't get involved in that too much.
I suspect the school committee will have their opportunity to propose things. Yeah, I don't think we should worry about school.
I think they
Yeah,
are
all
worried.
the town committees are given the opportunity to submit
Yeah.
requests, so, yes.
That's separate. Education's separate.
Is there any, are there any, say somebody like the school committee puts something forward, is there anything like that we can back, support?
Well, it's all going to come back to the planning board, right?
Right.
Well, it's going to go to the council first. The planning board, when it sees the list, is only confirming consistency with the comp plan. You're not going to weigh in on whether you like the project or not.
Oh.
And what we've just suggested certainly falls in line with the comp plan, so that's a no-brainer.
The one thing with the water to the east side is I'm not even sure the people over there want it, because once you bring it over there, the possibility of increasing the density of, of housing over there,
The
a
zoning
lot of
is
people
what it
don't
is.
want that,
Zoning is what it is.
You know, everybody says there's going to be increased density of houses on the east side of town. Look at the zoning map And that becomes evident that it's not going to have density with R30 and R40 zoning. I know Mr. Roderick's on the council keeps telling us, threatening us with this horrible thing that's going to happen over there if water comes. It's just not reality.
Plus, we did the build-out study, if you recall, and you can look at the maximum number that can be built there. So, that's why we did that study, to have some information to make decisions on.
And zoning can be changed too, if, infrastructure can support it, right?
Nobody has to hook up, just for hydrants.
Zoning can be changed, but the town council is not very supportive of that.
All right, moving along.
Yeah, any other suggestions? Ron, how about if I work with you on drafting a memo on this to send to the town council?
Sure.
Any other comments on this?
Why
Thank
don't
you all very much.
Why don't you vote to send something to the council?
Do we need a vote?
I would suggest that you vote.
Okay,
need the motion.
may I have a motion to send a memo to the town council requesting consideration of extending public water to the east side of town with all hydrants, et cetera, for a whatever it's called, funding project.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It passes. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is our report on project updates. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the report on project updates? Ron, I have some comments or questions.
Can I ask what happened to the marijuana ordinance?
Approved.
Yeah,
That was approved.
yeah, that was one of my...
Yeah.
That was one of yours, I'm sorry.
Well, my first comment was on the marijuana zoning. Town council voted to approve it, but excluding manufacturing and testing facilities. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. So they did approve it, but they took out what we allowed.
What they did was, it now provides that the large-scale cultivation and testing facilities are prohibited, but if it is determined that the town doesn't have the authority to prohibit it by ordinance, then those provisions that the planning board had put together with regard to special use permits and all the special criteria that will go along with those uses would then apply.
Oh, wasn't that the political thing to do?
The second question on looking at the items that the planning board has completed their effort. Item 4, light pollution. Has the hearing been advertised yet?
I believe it has. It's going to be coming up at the November 1st meeting, I think, for first reading.
Okay, very good. Number 6, the ground-mounted solar arrays, wasn't that adopted by the town council?
On first reading, it's coming up for second reading next week.
Okay, okay. On the prioritized items, number 4, the old favorite of fees.
I spoke with the finance director the other day, and he promises me he's going to get me the information I need in the next week or so.
Whoa, so next meeting we should have them?
I'm not going to promise.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the project updates? Okay, well, I think we have committee reports, use table.
Yeah, no, we met yesterday, and it looks like we met yesterday. It looks like we'll have a draft to review one more time. We're going to meet one more time, and then bring it to the board, do what we do with it.
Oh,
I
that's
think-
great.
You know, we did some good work, past couple meetings.
That's
I
good.
think it was BJ. She showed up yesterday and just kind of kicked us around and said, get it done.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, BJ. We need
Way to go, BJ. That's good. That would be looking forward to seeing the draft. That's good. Tree commission. Tree commission, BJ.
I would like to give kudos to the members of the Tree Commission who have given a lot of their private time to planting memorial trees. This is on Saturdays when a group of them have gotten together and given their time and their energy for this project. I understand, though, that there is a new pathway by the Kempenars land that has been okayed, I think I'm correct on that, by the DEM. And I believe that we're hopeful that some progress will be made on that fairly soon.
Very good. Thank you. Open space and fields, Mike?
The group has, they evaluated about 4 or 5 places for a pickleball court, and they came up with a list and they presented it to the town council, and their preference is that the one that's, over at, what's that place there down on,
Linden?
huh?
Linden?
Linden, yeah. It's in the, kind of, the one that's close to IHOP.
IHOP, yeah.
Right, yeah. So, there was two places in Linden, and the one that's, I guess, closer to the road is the one that they are suggesting is the best place for it. So, I don't know whether the town, I think I'm not sure if the council really took that suggestion out, or they, or they still
Is the
considering it.
committee forwarding it to the council? Is
They
that-
already did, yeah.
You already did?
Yeah.
Mhm. So the council hasn't acted on it yet?
Do you
I asked the administration to get some more information, some engineering work,
Mhm.
cost estimates and that sort of thing.
Okay, so
Okay,
they want some more details about something.
thanks, Mike. Conservation Commission, Joe?
We met last night. There were no applicants who appeared before the board, so it was a rather short meeting. There was about a 20-minute discussion about invasive species that we were asked to look into, and one of our Conservation Commission members has contacted a specialist from URI, and they're talking about doing a public kind of presentation, so stay tuned. There'll be some sort of I think a future workshop that will be announced by the Conservation Commission to kind of identify, promote, and how to eradicate these invasive.
That's great. That's terrific, yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, we have a special meeting tomorrow evening at 6 PM.
What?
On the Messalella Rosebrook Commons application. We have a special meeting on October 19th, next week, at 6 PM on the Haran Howland Avenue subdivision. And our next regular meeting is November 10th. Is there any other business to bring before the board? We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you, everyone.